Hello and welcome to Quaint and Cozy KC. It is season 2, episode 1. I have been gone for quite a while. I left momentarily because I had some air conditioning problems last summer, so you haven't heard a podcast from me since about September 2023. So I'm just letting you know that I am on my TikTok live, Quaint and Cozy KC. Thank you so much for all the follows. I just was able to go live in the past maybe few days because of all the support that I have received. So thank you again, everyone that supported me on TikTok. And so I'm also recording this. As you can see my headset, I'm not in the drive-thru, although there's nothing wrong with working the drive-thru. I actually did work the drive-thru at Sonic during my college years, and I was a roller skating car hop. I'm very proud of that. But, I was messing around with different headsets and Bluetooths and whatever, and I just finally decided I need a headset. I need to be connected, right? And speaking of connected, season 2 of Quaint and Cozy KC, it's going to be a little bit different, you guys. Now, last year when I started this podcast, I had started it because I have a blog called quaintandcozykc.com where I write about all the kind of quaint and cozy things going on in Kansas City. Now, a majority of the things I was writing about were restaurant reviews, right? Because I'm like, oh man, I want to try all these new restaurants. I'm in the Northland. This looks really cool. I've always wanted to try this place. And I was really connecting with people on, hey, what should I try next? But unfortunately, the economy has kind of taken a downturn. And although I am not hurting like other people are hurting, I wanted to be very cognizant of my readers and listeners, and so I want to support local businesses, but I want to do it in a way that is also kind of, honors my listeners and my readers. And so what I've kind of started to do, instead of doing the full-on restaurant reviews, I have the mini reviews, but also even more granular than that. I've got sections called now Quick Bites, where I just talk about maybe like one menu item that I got. Usually it's like maybe some really cool candy that I bought at a local store, or it's like just like a nice drop of dessert. And then I've got quick sips, and that's where I kind of explore. Sometimes it's cocktails, a lot of times it's mocktails that I've kind of purchased around the city. And so again, I want to be really cognizant of people's price points and also try to, encourage people to support local businesses, because sometimes when the economy gets bad, you want to support, but you feel like, oh my gosh, I have to spend so much money, and you don't. You can support a local business and spend like maybe $5 at the most, 10, if you're 10, 20. I mean, it doesn't have to be, a lot, and they appreciate everything that you can do for them. So again, had to bring in that community part. So I wanted to expand this podcast. As I said, as I'm expanding my blog, I am also going to be talking about glimpses of places here. I know in the podcast I did talk about the farmers market because I went to over 20 last year. I did talk about the cool local museums that I visited, like Atkins Johnson Museum, Lee Summit Museum, and I think there was another small one that I was able to go to. I'm going to keep going and doing that, but also, you guys, did you realize that Kansas City has some of the best libraries? Now, again, the main Kansas City library is amazing, and I went there for the first time, I think maybe it was a couple years ago. I hadn't been there since 1994. They were in a whole new location since the last time I had gone there. But there's also really nice branch libraries. Now, I used to live in the Mission area, so I would go to the Antioch library. It was like on Antioch and Shawnee Mission, and I don't know if that library is still open. Then there was a really cool one in Roland Park that I would check out, and then there used to be one in Shawnee, and it's since closed, and they've opened another one. So it's all around, all about the, I was all about the libraries and really cool ones. Now I'm up north, and there's some really beautiful libraries up here, and I also visit Lee Summit because that's where my family lives, and so I go to Lee Summit like once a week. And there's so many cool things that are going on in Lee Summit as well. Hello, small girl, big eats, food and travel. Thank you for liking the live. I definitely want to have you on my podcast. I'm going to be doing another podcast that is more food based. So I'm definitely going to be talking to you there. And going back to the Quaint and Cozy KC kind of premise for season 2, I'm expanding it out. I'm going to be exploring libraries, other really cool places, but also I'm going to do what I said I wasn't going to do in my last season is I'm going to start interviewing people. Now, a big part of the reason why I wasn't interviewing people is because I didn't have like the capability to do it. It was like all the platforms that I had, it was really shaky and unstable, but I decided to spend a little bit of money, some of the money I'm saving because I'm not, going out to restaurants all the time. And I decided to invest in like a paid subscription for Zoom. So now I can do like the recordings and I can do it longer than 30 minutes. And so, yes, I definitely want to be interviewing local people for a food podcast. And then also I want to talk to people about their quaint and cozy habits in KC. Like, what do you do when you want to get that quaint and cozy kind of feeling, right? I want to bring more people into the conversation because I was out tonight at a networking event, and it's for, I want to make sure I have this written down correctly. It was for the KC Northland Small Business, and there is this new co-op. It's the co-op at Shoal Creek, and they're doing some really cool things. They're even doing some like home ec classes, stuff like that, stuff to keep us connected and community. And as I'm sitting there talking to people, I'm like, you know what? Yes, this person is a power washer and they're not, doing food or whatever, but I kind of want to know about what they do for their quaint and cozy KC habits. Like, what are they doing in KC? Like, what's some of the fun things that they're doing in KC that kind of help them to stay connected, to their community? Because I really want to be that podcast that you can chop vegetables to, a low stakes podcast where you can kind of learn about local things. And it's not going to be something where you have to think super hard. You can just kind of decompress because there's a lot going on in the world, and there are a lot of great podcasts that are addressing everything that's going on in the world. Now, technically, I do have a master's in international business law, right? And I could talk for hours about everything going on, but I don't want to do that because I think where I can really help the world right now is to kind of help them relax and decompress a little bit. And after you listen to those podcasts that are very informative, you can come listen to this podcast and, talk to people about candle or listen to people talk about candle making or listen to people talk about, taking culinary classes, just something to kind of decompress all of us. And that's kind of what I want to do. I want to be the podcast that you can unwind to, on Sunday when you're meal prepping or on Saturday when you're going on that hike. Or if you're even taking a short road trip. One of the things I like to do when I'm taking a short road trip, hello, good to see you too. One of the things that I like to take on my short road trips are podcasts. So I have different podcasts I listen to. Sometimes I listen to like celebrity stuff, but a lot of times when I'm listening to podcasts, I'm listening to like Radio Cherry Bomb. I'm listening, and that's like a kind of a woman-based podcast about, women food creators. And sometimes they have men that they discuss some things with, but mainly it's very woman-focused, which I really appreciate. I also listen to This Bites. Now, that's a local Milwaukee food show. Yes, I'm geeking out. I've only been to Milwaukee a couple times, but I'm geeking out on food shows in different cities because I always want to kind of know about their food scenes as well. I listen to a podcast called Weekly Dish, and it's out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, the Twin Cities. Really the Twin Cities. I was born in the Twin Cities, raised in Topeka, but I went back after college and started my legal career in the Twin Cities. So it has a very special place in my heart. And every time I hear their accents, it kind of brings me back. And, all of a sudden I feel like my accent's going to start coming out, And again, I didn't know I had a Minnesota accent until I moved back. And someone explained to me, well, you did live in Minnesota. You learned to talk in Minnesota. So, when you came back there, that's your natural speech pattern. I'm like, oh, and it's true because I can Minnesotan with the best of them. Anyway, enough about that. Some of the other things I'm going to be doing this summer as far as my Quaint and Cozy KC journey is I've decided that one of the things that can be challenging when you live in a mid-sized city as Kansas City, I mean, it's a great city, don't get me wrong, I'm not, there's no slander, but sometimes it's really difficult to find things to do, not because there aren't things to do, because, there are tons of things to do. There is, if I were coming here as a new person, and that's a whole other, I could do a whole episode on that, but I definitely would, if you're just moving to Kansas City, I would check out obviously Union Station, the city market, river market area, that whole thing. Yes, you have to hit those, but there's also like little outer bands of places, and that's what this podcast is mainly about. Again, I'll talk to anybody who does stuff in city market and river market, all that stuff, but I also really want to talk to people that are doing things in Excelsior Springs, that are doing things in Kearney or Kearney, however you pronounce it. I hear people pronounce this Kearney, whatever. When I say whatever, it's like, I go, wait, isn't it called Kearney? Isn't it called? I've gotten into debates with people, so I'm just like, okay, you know that place. And so I definitely want to talk to people and the little outer bands as well. There's lots of quaint and cozy things are going on in the city. So one of the challenges is to remember that, because sometimes you're like, oh, there's nothing to do because I don't want to go to Union Station. It's going to be packed down there. I don't want to go to the city market or river market because it's summertime and everybody is down there. It's such an event thing. Like, what can I do? What kind of farmer's market can I go to? Well, if you want to go to a big farmer's market, but you don't want to go to city market, you can always go to Overland Park. That's got a nice, and it's kind of an event kind of city market. I'm sorry, a farmer's market, because I don't want to get people confused. It's kind of like an eventful farmer's market, Overland Park. Another one that is kind of up and coming, I feel like people have been sleeping on, is historic downtown Liberty. I want to shout them out because I just discovered this place maybe a couple of years ago. I'm like, Liberty has this cute little downtown. And, again, it was still kind of like the last gasps of the quarantine COVID, era. So there weren't a ton of people, at the farmers markets, but now it is like, I just drove through there. I was going to stop by my favorite tea shop, Anna Marie's Teas, although all the tea shops in Kansas City are amazing, but I love Anna Marie's Teas. That's kind of like, we're like this. I love those girls. And so, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even stop. I can't even park in the secret little spaces that I know. Every little downtown, every little area, when you go there enough, all the secret parking spots where you can get in and then run and do your thing and then get out easily. Y'all, they done took my secret parking spots. I'm like, dang it. Okay, but that's all good. That means business is booming because now downtown Liberty is doing a lot more things on Saturdays. It is popping down there and it's super cute, and you can walk the streets. And as I say that, it's like a downtown feel. There's like a square. So I love it. I see a lot of people, different, very diverse. And then you see people with like strollers, strolling kids. You see older people there. You see like, families, like older families, like all that stuff, solo people. So again, if you are looking for a farmer's market that's not city market because it's a little too populated, or you got little people with you and you don't want to deal with all that, Overland Park. And again, it can get crowded there. Historic downtown Liberty, another good one. If you kind of want that feel, like you want a farmer's market where there's people and it's all this, Lenexa has got a nice one. There's a lot of, again, I went last year, haven't gone to this year. But I definitely would say that downtown Lenexa, because the reason why I like downtown Lenexa is because you can go to the farmer's market and you can go to all the other spaces too. And that's another reason why I like downtown, historic downtown Liberties, because again, you're going to the farmer's market, but there's all these other little shops to explore. And again, Overland Park is that way as well. But if you're kind of like, okay, I want something a little smaller than Overland Park, then I would go historic downtown Liberty. If you kind of want that city kind of, when I say city, I mean, I should say kind of like that downtown quaint and cozy feel with all the brick. And then there's museums. There's a couple of little small museums that you can kind of pop in and out of, and they're pretty low cost if you're kind of like, hey, we're doing farmers market and we're having cultural day or something like that. Very interesting history that's down there. There's also the Garrison School, and that is like an African American museum, and it's got like a lot of African Americans, prominent African Americans that are from the Liberty area that are kind of featured in there. And I went to a Juneteenth activity there, like an event last Saturday, and it was really cool. And I wish I could have stayed longer, but I had to run around and do a couple things. But yeah, it was a really nice experience, and I didn't know that place existed. I just happened to be looking through. I'm like, I want to make sure I do a Juneteenth activity because I'm going to be really super big, like all my calendars, as your calendars as well. If you've noticed post-COVID, like we're just running the streets. We're all collectively just running the streets. And so I was like, okay, I got to check this out. So again, that's in downtown Liberty, and that's where I was at when it was all like things were like kind of backing up and everything. So I would definitely check out that place. Lenexa downtown's got a nice downtown feel. Now, if you kind of want a cottage core kind of experience, I would go to downtown Parkville's farmers market. I would go there because you're gonna have the downtown, which is gorgeous, right? And then you're gonna have a park that's nearby, and there's like a there's like some kind of like creek or something there, and there's really cool places to picnic, and I really liked it. It made me feel like I was in this whole other town, like a cute little Hallmark. It was definitely a Hallmark experience. And so then also, if I just wanted to grab and go, if I was like, I don't need the experience today, I need to grab and go, then I would go to Grandview's Farmers Market, because that's a nice grab and go kind of farmers market. And I would go to Gladstone's Farmers Market. That's another nice little grab and go farmers market. Now, going on the Kansas side, downtown Shawnee has a farmers market. Now, it's a little on the smaller side, and again, it's something where I would call it's definitely a nice grab and go, but you are in downtown Shawnee, so there's also like places to eat over there if you wanted to like do a breakfast and then go check out the farmers market. Also, a lot of times in downtown Shawnee, they have something going on. There's always some kind of thing that is going on in downtown Shawnee. So again, you can make like a morning of it. And we don't think about these things. Isn't it funny? Like when I was living in bigger cities, I always knew, okay, so like when I was living in Los Angeles, I'm like, okay, so we're going to go do dim sum here. Then we're going to do this. And every Sunday we would go to like a new dim sum place. I mean, this is like years ago. But, in Kansas City, it's like I like had a hard time adjusting. Like, okay, what do I do on Sundays? Where do I brunch? And then I don't just want to brunch. I want to go and like look at some kind of like event or tour something, do something. But I wasn't that familiar with Kansas City. I just was like, oh, Union Station. Oh, like I had like 4 places to go, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's got to be a better way to kind of like figure out how to get my quaint and cozy view. And so again, I kind of I just wanted to kind of do a little catch up and talk to you guys about the farmers markets and the cool museums and some of the quests, because again, I've got to go to Bonner Springs has a farmers market. Did you know that? I did not know that. And do you know why I know that? Because they have a KC passport program now. Hi, Kay from Kansas. They have a KC passport program for some of the farmers markets. And so you go in, you bring that with you, and they give you like a sticker. And then when you get a sticker, you get so many stickers, I guess you're eligible for prizes. So that's kind of cool. So I definitely have that. And then there's also a passport for the museums. So that's kind of keeping me focused because, there's all these really cool things to do. I'm like, no, I've got 2 quests. I've got museums, actually 3 museums this summer. I've got farmers markets, and I've got libraries. Up north, there are beautiful libraries. As I stated earlier in the podcast, I had no idea that they existed because I wasn't, I'm like, oh, I get everything online right now, right? And I just happened to be looking at some events and my Facebook feed, my Quaint and Cozy KC Facebook feed. And I'm like, wait a minute. They're doing and this is a few months ago, Adventures with Tea, which is a great organization. They're doing like a tea tasting. And I guess they do these, through the libraries. And I was like, oh, let me just go ahead. And I'm like, where's this library? And so I ended up in a library in Liberty, and I'm trying to, I can't remember that I think it was Withers Library. Maybe, don't quote me on that. But I ended up doing that, and it was such a lovely event. And then I'm like, wait a minute, there's probably more events, right? And so I just started looking up events, and now I'm kind of like, I get like notifications and stuff like that when they're doing events. And in August, there's like a romance writers and readers kind of conference, a 2-day conference on a Thursday and a Friday in August. I'm going to go, I signed up for the Friday one. I can't take both days off, but I signed up for the Friday one, and I'm super excited because one of the things that is on kind of like my list is to write and publish a romance novel. Now, I did the November NaNoWriMo activity. I never get that name right. And so I have a rough draft. Like I wrote a lot. I wrote a manuscript for a romance novel. And look, I was reading through it, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to do a lot of work on this. But so that's kind of like on my list of things to kind of do, right? And so I'm really excited for that. But that's the kind of activities we have at the library. So again, Kansas City libraries are really great. Really, I've always had, great experiences there. And so I'm just imploring you, if you're on a budget this summer, you're like, I don't have a lot of money, I can't go too far. Libraries are getting lit with some of these events, you guys. It's really kind of cool. And I think Julia Quinn, she's the one that created the Bridgerton. She's actually going to be speaking at one of the events. Now I'm on the waiting list for that. That's in August. But like I'm really excited about that. I mean, I'm like, please, 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 please. I want to be able to get in and kind of hear her speak. So my experience with Bridgerton is that I accidentally listened to Bridgerton on an audiobook because I was like, oh, I just, I'm going to get like a Regency romantic. I wasn't paying attention, and I'm like, oh, like this is kind of steamy. I was not anticipating that. I thought it was going to be like, like, oh, I am dishonored, like something like that. No. It was a little bit more intense than I was like, oh wow, this is not what I was expecting. It was good, but was not what I was expecting. So I'm really excited to get the chance, fingers crossed, to meet her. Again, the importance of libraries. I'm not sitting here trying to give a PSA, but I am trying to give people an idea, especially if you just moved to Kansas City. And I will kind of talk about, because again, this podcast has no rhyme or reason. I'm just trying to keep it quaint and cozy right now because it's just me right now. And then the next couple of weeks, I'll be bringing people on here to interview them about kind of their quaint and cozy lifestyle choices. So I'm going to go back to the blog that I'm doing, and as I stated earlier, I'm going to be expanding that more. So it's not just going to be the reviews; it's going to be glimpses of places, and a glimpse basically means like I don't have a lot of time to write about this because I'm actually doing something else, but I wanted to capture this. Like there is a story center in the library, and again, people are like, girl, we've been knowing that. I know, but I did not know that. So I'm excited to go to an event there as well. So I signed up for some things there. And now I feel like the challenge of like, now that I've been in Kansas City for a while, to go back to, sorry, I'm kind of flipping all around. It's going to take me a while to get my sea legs here when it comes to podcasting. But one of the things I really appreciate about Kansas City is that, it's easy to kind of get around the city. It's easy to kind of maneuver around the city. And if you're someone who's from a bigger city and you're just moving to Kansas City, or you're just here for the summer for whatever reason, it's really easy to navigate around. There's actually a lot to do. There's a lot of cool little districts to check out. And I would definitely get on Facebook. And I know my niece says Facebook's for old people, but yeah, definitely get on Facebook. Join some of the social groups. If you're a foodie person, like I'm in about 5 different food groups on Facebook, and I'm learning about new restaurants all the time, or I'm learning about new bakeries all the time because I'm really kind of into the bakeries and coffee shops. I actually have friends who I am definitely going to have on one of my podcasts. They're doing this whole coffee tour, and I know that if you follow me on my lives, and I've actually I've posted those on Facebook and YouTube as well. I was telling you about them, Troy and Vanessa, a great married couple, and they are doing their part in exploring all the local coffee shops and reporting back and letting us know the vibe of them. So I definitely want to talk to them. I have someone else, I think they're called Bite Sin on TikTok, but friends of mine, Becky and Marvel, I'm definitely going to talk to them as well. They do all kinds of really cool things, and I'm always seeing her cooking up really cool, like she does these really cool videos cooking up really yummy looking food. And so we're definitely going to be talking to her on one of my podcasts, either the main food podcast, or I'll bring them on here. Or I could probably do both for some of these folks, but I just want to hear different people's perspective. And again, this is my Kansas City TikTok, so there's a lot of Kansas City followers on here. If you are somebody that wants to be interviewed on this podcast and you want to talk about your quaint and cozy things that you do, as far as like books that you're reading, or foods that you're learning to make, like all that stuff, please please reach out to me. You can reach out to me. I think you can reach out to me on my website, but it's just as easy if you want to send me a DM on my Quaint and Cozy KC page on Facebook. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me, because I can see that, like, those notifications for Facebook. Let me tell you something. Out of everything that I have, Facebook will be like, boom, right now, like, what? Where you at, girl? What? Someone just messaged you. Versus my Gmail, it's like, when did this message come through? Like, so yeah, they make sure that you get your message, okay? So please hit me up on Quaint and Cozy KC on Facebook. If you want to be interviewed on here, we'll talk about nothing too invasive. I don't really invade things. I want to talk about all the quaint and cozy things you're doing. You got favorite candles that you like, and especially if there's a local business that you're supporting through your quaint and cozy habits. Speaking of that, this meetup that I went to tonight, it was amazing. There was like all these different really cool business people there. There's someone doing a pop-up bookshop, which I really appreciated. Someone that is like teaching home ec classes, which I'm like, I need to do that. I haven't taken a home ec class in a while. I probably would, do well. I probably should have asked her if she does like knife skills, because I get more and more self-conscious cutting on camera, because I know I'm like, oh, I'm just kind of barely holding it together with my knife skills here. And so yeah, I'm gonna definitely check out those classes. And I think one of the most important things as I sit here and I'm like sitting here and I'm going live finally, I can just remember last year thinking, man, it would be so much easier if I could go live and record the podcast, and then I could use this video, I could put it on YouTube, and that would just cut down me having to, make a video, then having to do this. And now I'm finally kind of living that. And I'm just sitting here like, oh my gosh, like I was telling the people at the meetup tonight, like for so long I've had to like do like a million things at once. And now I'm trying to like work a lot smarter. I mean, still hard, but like a lot smarter versus harder. And that is definitely a blessing for me to kind of be on here. And so just to tell you, and again, this episode is going all over the place. If you're like, is she always going to be this way? Probably not. It's just like my first time back since September of 2023 in my air conditioning. So I am a little bit all over the place, and I do apologize for that, but I'm just so excited to be back. So now one of the things, just to do a catch up, that I started doing is I got a Kindle Unlimited last summer. I got a Kindle Unlimited subscription. And I was like, let me just try this out, because I've never been a big ebook person. Now, when I was getting my master's degree, I had to become an ebook person because textbooks were like $600. But if you got the ebook version, it was like $200 or $175. So that's a big difference. And so I had to get really good at ebooks. And so as a result, I'm like, well, let me just try. I'll just do this Kindle. And they were offering, I think, 3 months for free or something like that, or 2 months for free. So I'm like, I'll do that. And so the first 3 weeks, I did not read anything. And I was like, oh, not really. I kept forgetting I had it. And then, when that heat wave came, and it was too hot to do anything, and I just had like 3 fans and a ceiling fan and all this stuff, and I was just in this little, I call it the grandma circle fan of safety, because back in the day, if you're from the 80s like me, your grandma, like not everybody had central air in some of those old houses. You had like your grandma would have like central air in her bedroom, right? And then there might be central air in like a family room. And but for the most part, there was no central air. You just had the fan circle of safety. And so I had the fan circle of safety set up on me as I read. So I can remember just sitting there and I was just drinking loads of water, and I was just reading all of these ebooks, and I got addicted to these ebook romances, and that kind of gave me the idea, like, hey, maybe I could do this too. Like, I'm reading some pretty good stuff, but some of the stuff I'm reading just seems a little formulaic, but I love it just the same. And I realized one of the reasons why I really loved it is because those book characters, they become like our friends after a while. And I started thinking, because I used to read series back in the day or whatever, but I forgot when you start to read a series, even a romance novel series where it's like there's 5 sisters and you're following their lives, and as like one gets married off, and then oh look, here comes another one, and then there's another, all this stuff, and then you start building worlds, and then you start wondering, like, you're like, oh my gosh, their next book isn't coming out for 2 weeks. 2 weeks seems like forever, right? And so I'm like, oh my gosh, this author has sucked me in. So I was following, there was an author, Tiffany Patterson. I started reading her stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, this stuff's a little steamy, but not just that. She was building worlds of people, and then she was connecting all the worlds and building this community, right? And I thought, oh man, this is amazing. And it's kind of like, visiting friends again. And I kind of felt like my 10-year-old self, and at 10 I wasn't reading books like this, but my 10-year-old self who used to read those book series like we all read, right? Like the Boxcar Kids and like Encyclopedia Brown and Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew, like all that stuff. You started feeling like, oh my gosh, these are kind of like, I'm really getting invested in the lives of these characters. And so it kind of got me reading series again. Now, I do like mystery novels. I'm a cozy mystery novel girl personally. Now, I have read hardcore, like hard-boiled procedurals, but I really prefer, the cozies. And so I was finding myself, reading those as well. But you really do kind of get caught up in their lives. And even when the sleuths sometimes, because after the fourth book, you think, man, this is the unluckiest flower shop owner in the world. Like dead bodies just falling out all over the place and whatever. You start to, again, sometimes it gets a little tiresome, but at the same time, it's really low stakes because you kind of know the formula, but it's still at the same time very comforting to kind of read the same thing. I think that's why people get, caught up in a genre or a style, because it's just, after a while, it feels like home. And reading for me, like reading cozy novels, and at this point I do more audiobooks because I'm always doing something, but being involved in that world, you're like, oh my gosh, I wonder if they're going to stay together. I wonder, I hope they are able to save the show. You really get into it. It's kind of like when I was a kid and I would be like, go Lassie, go, like at the end of it. And so sorry, I couldn't resist that. But yeah, I was really into that stuff. You're cheering for the characters, or you're like side-eyeing the books. So yeah, I like, that's one of the things about doing the like reading the books and getting caught up in the worlds, whether it's romance or mystery. It's just really easy to kind of like get caught up in that. And I love that because especially like right now, we're just all kind of trying to do what we can to kind of stay, keep everything together. So yeah, I'm in fact, when I get off this podcast, I'm gonna be like looking at my book list to see if there's anything that's coming in, because that's one of the best parts. When I was younger, we didn't have all them internets. We had the card catalog, and we had the like you would reserve a book and you had to fill something out to reserve it. I'm like doing like to fill something. Remember those little pencils, and you couldn't really grip them, and they were never really sharp. You'd have to fill that out, and I had horrible handwriting, so I'd have to write it out in block letters, or I'd have to have my mom write it out for me because my penmanship was not great. And so I can remember the best feeling is when you got that library call where it was like, hey, your book is in, and it would be like the recorded voice, your book is in, you have 2 items in, and you're like, oh my gosh, like that would be so exciting. And then when I got caught up in the audiobook, so I listened to audiobooks as a kid when I was younger with my grandma, but then I was my last year of college, and I couldn't afford cable, and like I remember like, what can I do, because I gotta like clean my house, and I'm kind of tired of all my music. So I'm like, well, I'll get an audiobook of some mystery. And so I got hooked. There is a book called The Day After Tomorrow. It's not based on that movie that came out years ago, but I think the alternate title was Ubermorgen, and it was this big conspiracy theory, like, oh my gosh, this globe-trotting book, and all the suspense. And I listened to that book, and it was like, I think it was like a 15-hour audiobook, y'all. I listened to that book in like a day and a half. It was so lit. I was so like, and I think it was during Christmas break, or maybe it was, I think it was Christmas break when I was listening to that, and it was so amazing. It's called The Day After Tomorrow, or Ubermorgen, and it's not based on the movie that came out. It's like its own book, but I would really love that for them to make some kind of series out of it, because it was that good. It had me on the edge of my seat. And I remember being like 22 years old going, oh my gosh, this is like, and people were calling me like, hey girl, you want to go out? I'm like, I'm not answering my phone. I'm listening to this audiobook as I like scrub my floors, or, you know, stuff you do during Christmas. You're like, I'm going to keep doing this because I'm 22. And then the school gets back in session. Like, I'm not doing that. But, yeah, like that. And I was listening to it on my little Walkman thing when I was, you know, walking, to Walmart or whatever. So yeah, like that. I mean, audiobooks, I love them for that reason. Plus, there's something about an audiobook and it's raining and you're like playing it on, well, now, you know, I play them on my phone. I don't do the CDs, or I remember when they were on tapes, but like I don't do the CDs. I do them from, you know, MP3s or whatever, but you're listening to it with your Bluetooth, and, you know, you're like cleaning things and it's kind of rainy outside or it's kind of cold outside, and you're just sitting there drinking some cinnamon tea, or some mint tea, and you're like listening to the plot unfold, wearing a really warm sweater. Now in the summertime, because you're like, it's hot in Kansas City, why are you talking about sweater? So in the summertime, there's something about listening to that as you kind of sit on your back patio or your balcony, and you just kind of relax. Or if you don't have that, you've got kind of like, you're like looking out the window, or you could just be kind of sitting in your living room, just kind of like, you know, if you've got air conditioning on, you probably have like a little blanket on, like, you know, you're trying to be like cozy and listening to that and just kind of like relaxing. Although I'm guilty of not being able to do that. Usually if I'm listening to an audiobook, I am cleaning, I'm running the dishwasher, I'm going on a walk, I'm, you know, cleaning out my car, something. But sometimes it is nice just to kind of sit back, relax, sip on some tea, whether it's summertime tea or there's going to be like an ice cube in it, or it's wintertime tea and it's just kind of warm. And I think audiobooks are the ultimate in coziness and just kind of like, I don't know, like that's one of the things that I really, really love to do. Or if it's kind of cold outside and you've got to drive. When I used to have to drive to Topeka from the Northland, I would put on, you know, I'd listen to some of my podcasts, but sometimes, you know, during the holiday season, I would put on like one of my mysteries. And one of the things about audiobooks, you have to kind of know what your limits are, right? And as far as like how long can you listen to this book? For some people, they don't want to get an audiobook that's under 9 hours because they kind of want to be invested in things and they need some time, and they want to, you know, other people are like, if it's more than 4 hours, I can't do it. So again, just kind of figure out what your pace is. And the good thing is at the library, Hoopla, Libby, there's free things that you can listen to, audiobook wise. Also, if you've got Spotify Premium, they also have audiobooks on there. And obviously there's Audible, but I really appreciate Spotify Premium because it's like you can listen to it. Now, some of them do charge you extra, even if you're premium, but you can listen to a majority of these books. And then when you're done, you don't have to be invested in keeping them. They're like, okay, well, I'm done listening to this, and you kind of move on with your life. You don't have to worry about, okay, do I got to clear this out because I've already listened to it. You just kind of listen to it and you're able to go, and then you can like resume it. Like there was one mystery, Temperance Brennan, and like those mysteries. And sometimes I can listen to her stuff and I can like do 3 books in a row. Other times, like some of the books will start off slower because she's building up this big like kind of crescendo to action. But when they start off slow, sometimes it takes me a while to get into them. So I might listen to them once, or like I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna start it, and then I'll get into 45 minutes. I'm like, okay, I gotta move. I can't invest in this. But sometimes if I'm driving and I'm like, oh, I got a 2-hour drive, then I can definitely put it on there and just kind of get, you know, through that audiobook. But yeah, like I'm just rambling on about audiobooks because again, it's quaint and cozy, and it's something that I feel like is, you know, something that can kind of contribute to that. Somebody asked me, well, how do you do quaint and cozy? Like what? I'm like, well, it's whatever it means to you. Like if you're an audiobook person and that makes you feel all quaint and cozy, that's what you do. Like all kind of just like comfortable and relaxed. That's really what quaint and cozy is. It's just something that you need. Like I've got to go to the tea shop, like probably like every other month. I go and I load up on loose leaf teas, and I'm using them to make kind of more tea-based mocktails because I have to avoid sparkling water. I sometimes can drink soda, but not as much anymore. So I started really drinking sparkling water. Well, then that was not great either. The carbonation, my body's like, oh, we not carbonating like that anymore, girlfriend. So now I'm just drinking like flavored water, or I'm doing like a lot more teas. And so I'm excited because in the next couple weeks I'm going to be going back to Anna Marie's Teas because that's the closest tea shop to me, and trying some more of their new selection. So yeah, I'm really geeked up about that. Now, if you are not in the Northland and you're like, where do I have, are there teas close to me? Definitely do that Google search, or even do a Facebook search, because a lot of the tea shops here do have Facebook pages, maybe Instagram as well, and you can kind of find one that's closer to your area that you can kind of patronize. I think that's so important in this, because a lot of the things that are quaint and cozy, some of those shops don't last long because they don't get the support that they need. And that's not, bashing anybody, but something you just forget. You're like, oh yeah, I do need some tea, because you get busy. So again, it's just something like I'm really mindful to try to go every other month to get load up on my tea. Same thing with my spices. I try to go like every other month and get some of the loose spices, that's like the fresh loose spices or whatever. And I was going to a place called Flavor. They've kind of changed things around how they're doing things. They're in Lee Summit, downtown Lee Summit, so they're kind of like changing their business model. So there's a couple other places that I'm looking at to start patronizing for their spices. I mean, again, I also get spices at the Dollar Tree, Walmart, Hy-Vee, because again, let's face it, the economy, it's not hurting me as much as it's hurting a lot of people, but I still want to be mindful of things, and I don't want to be like bragging about, and I got this saffron, and it's like, and other people are really, hurting and everything, so I'm really being mindful about that, because this is not, quaint and cozy stuff to me is not luxury. It's the old sweater that your grandpa gave you, your grandma gave you, that she knitted for you, that you're still wearing, or it's like that nice little scarf, or it's that patchwork quilt that you have, and you're sipping your tea, or you're sipping whatever it is that you sip. Maybe you don't, maybe you sip stuff that's a little stronger than tea, but it's whatever that is for you. I'm just going to end this with talking about dance lessons in Kansas City, you guys. Talk about quaint and cozy. I love the dance community here. It's very supportive. I've gone to Walters, and there's Redux, and there's other places around the city. So if you're into dancing and you want to learn how to dance, you don't need a partner. You can just show up and learn how to do some of these couples dances and that stuff. It's just something fun to do, especially in the summertime. Because you're like, oh man, I'm running out of things to do. The Chiefs aren't playing yet. The Royals aren't on tonight. So go hit up a dance studio, and that charges by the lesson. It's like, oh hey, you can just kind of come in for one night. You don't have to commit. Now some places might make you commit, so definitely look that up before you go. But I love Redux just because it's like the people. There's like such a wide diversity of people that are there, and there's so many cool things there. They've got like games, as far as like they have like this whole like game club thing going on. There's books. There's just it's a nice little quaint and cozy community center for like nerds like me who want to learn things. I want to do it in a very supportive environment, and that's the most important thing. I think a lot of people are scared to learn things because they don't want to go someplace and feel like they're so judged and feel very self-conscious, and you're just not going to feel that at Redux. Everyone is so supported, or at Walters. The other ones I can't vouch for because I've never been to them, but I hear that they're amazing as well. So again, to support the dance community, it's a great thing to support, and really nice people are part of that. So yeah, that is it for this season 2. Episode 1 of Quaint and Cozy, where I'm just kind of like, again, I am just that podcast that you can chop vegetables to. We're keeping it mellow. We're keeping it quaint and cozy. I do go all around with things, and but I generally come back and tie it up. I want to thank my legal training for that. I took you through a whole story, and then I wrapped it up. Hopefully, I'm going to be doing these podcasts on Wednesdays. I'll be filming it live on TikTok, and then I'm also recording it, so I'll be uploading it to Spotify, and that might take like a day or two, so you'll hear it live. If you come here on Wednesdays, it'll be live, and it might not get on until tomorrow or Friday night. I'm really excited because I'm going to be going to the lake. I'm going to Smithville Lake for the very first time, and I'm doing my lake bites. If you've been following me and my lake bite journey, I was trying to figure out what I was going to cook, because it's supposed to be hot and all those things, and I decided on quesadillas with some homemade salsa. That's going to be I'm going to chill it, so there's going to be a little bit of heat, but that way it's going to like kind of get chilled down, so you're not going to be out there sweating, like trying to eat these quesadillas just sweating. And I'm also going to have some lemon bites, so lemon cake bites. And so I'm making everything. Well, I'm making the lemon and the salsa on Friday, right? Because I want the lemon, I want that to be very cold. Salsa, I feel like salsa needs at least a day to kind of set, right? At least 12 hours to set. Now the quesadillas, I'm going to make fresh on Saturday morning. Wish me luck. It's going to be a lot because I'm going to be up early making those quesadillas, and but everything else will be done. I'll have everything chopped. That's another thing. That's a whole other like video, but I'm really excited because I love trying new things. There's some really cool lakes around here as well, and I'm going to be taking pictures of the lake and posting them on TikTok. I just prefer, when I do my TikTok stuff, to kind of do more picture slideshows versus me like making actual videos, since I do go live every week on TikTok, and like twice a week technically on TikTok. So I don't want to, keep making video. I'm like kind of burnt out on videos, but I think that the scenery, like just posting that, I kind of like doing that because I feel like it speaks for itself. And on that note, I'm going to stop speaking, and I'm going to thank you for your support. And I'm looking at my numbers, and you guys are really coming out and supporting me. And I said this time when I came out and did this podcast, I was going to really, really go for it and really put myself out there, which is a challenge for me because I am that auntie who is like cheering everybody else on, and I kind of forget that, oh, hey, I kind of like to do that stuff too. So in 2024, I'm trying to make changes and really put myself out there, and you guys have made it very easy because you have been so supportive and so kind on this journey. So I will talk to you soon, and please remember to keep it quaint and to keep it cozy. Take care.